As my best of series continues, I take you back to Raiders Media Day. You hear from GM Tom Telesco, offensive coordinator Luke Getsy, and also Jackson, Powers, Johnson. All coming up on Thursday's edition of the Locked On Raiders podcast for June 27th, 2024.
You are Locked On Raiders, your daily Las Vegas Raiders podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome in, Raider Nation, to another edition of the Locked On Raiders podcast. Thank you so much for making the show your first listen of the day. Make sure you subscribe or follow for free on YouTube or wherever you get your podcast to get the latest edition of the show as soon as it becomes available. As always, if you're checking us out on YouTube, you know we appreciate that. Just because you're checking it out, the show grows each and every day. We shout you out. We shout out Ari. Ari produces the show. He hooks it up. Make sure we're up on YouTube. We're looking good and we sound good. He's doing a fantastic job, and we definitely appreciate him. He's on Twitter at Ari Produces. You can check me out on Twitter as well, at your boy Q254. And when it's not a best of show, we'll have the Locked On Raider podcast voicemail line wide open like some old school TV antennas at 707-654-4693. Feel free to put that in your notes. As soon as I get back from vacation on July 1st, we'll have all the calls and texts that you have, right? All the feedback. We love to hear from you, so we'll get back to that. But as soon as I get back and we have some live shows, some real shows, some up-to-date shows, and not, best of series as we got going on right now as I'm vacationing with the wife, getting a little R&R, a little rest and relaxation. But got an exciting show for you. As always, we're going to take you back to Raiders Media Day. It was at the Intermountain Health Performance Center. It was a Raiders Roundtable. JT the Brick, Eric Allen, and myself had an opportunity to catch up with a ton of players, coaches, the GM, just a lot of different folks we had access to, and it was really cool. It was the second year in a row that I've had an opportunity to do that, so it was really blessed to be a part of that. So you'll hear from those different folks coming up in today's show. Segment number 3, the rookie, Jackson Powers Johnson, a guy I'm excited about. He's been slotted in at the left guard position. That's where he's been working out at mandatory minicamp. Of course, when we get to Costa Mesa, California for training camp, we'll see officially if he's holding down that spot, but I do believe he'll end up being the left guard, and they slide Dylan Parham over to the right guard position. So you'll hear from him coming up in segment number 3. Segment number 2, offensive coordinator Luke Getsy. Of course, he hasn't been with the Raiders very long. He comes over from the Chicago Bears. We had an opportunity to catch up with him at the Raiders Media Day as well. You'll hear from him in segment number 2. Here in segment number 1, you'll hear from the GM, the guy that pushes all the buttons, the guy that makes it all go, GM Tom Telesco. So that's coming up after I tell you about the title sponsor of the show, which is Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use promo code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. So let's go ahead and jump right into it. Let's take you back to the Raiders Roundtable. It was Raiders Media Day. It's the second year I've had an opportunity to be a part of this really good event. It was out on the Raiders YouTube page, and it was 4 hours long, 4 hours strong. But one of the first guys that we had an opportunity to catch up with was the GM, Tom Telesco. And, of course, he's got the master plan in his head. Him and AP have a vision that they're sharing as they're trying to put this team together. We'll obviously see how it all shakes out throughout the course of training camp, see how it looks in preseason, and then, of course, the regular season when everything matters. But here's the conversation as JT the Brick welcomes in Tom Telesco to the Raiders Roundtable. This is from Raiders Media Day. Check it out.
Tom, great to see you. How are you?
Thanks for having me on. This is great.
Thrilled to have you. And I saw you the other night here. We were here for the Wellness Weekend for the alumni, so you got an opportunity to be behind the scenes here, and I know you're getting to know the alumni. That was a special night.
That was a great night. By the way, they turned this building over pretty quick, huh? It was like a huge wedding in the back with the amount of people that are here, the way it was set up. It was a great event. A lot of alumni were here, and we had talked about it earlier. There is no team that does the alumni like the Raiders do, and the way that was set up, a whole weekend of activities, a lot of it around wellness and education for former players and their spouses. And it was a great event. It was fun just hanging out, talking with former players. I love hearing the stories of the players that played here in the past. It was just a great deal.
Yeah. Let's start off with OTAs and how's it been so far, getting the players in the building and some of your big thoughts overall.
Yeah, it's been great. I was just talking upstairs about, the OTA is really about individual improvement. It's probably the only time of the year it's really more about individual than team. A lot of the work is in the weight room. And the guys done a great job in the weight room with conditioning, strength development, and then individual development on the field. Now, obviously, we do some group and some teamwork on the field, but a lot of it's individual work, getting better. Now we get to training camp. Now it's really more about the team, group work. But individually, we need guys, especially like last year's draft class and 2 years ago, the young guys that kind of take a step up. A lot of that step up is in the offseason.
The evaluation period that you go through with the young guys and the free agents, how do you know they're going to accept this kind of individual coaching that seems to be new with Antonio Pierce's crew?
Yeah, so this time of year, I try not to evaluate the players. Try not to. I mean, they're out there practicing, so you do watch, and you can't help but a lot of the young guys, like, it's about learning the offense, the defense, the scheme, how we do things, even like how we practice, how the drills we use. If you learn that all here, once you get to training camp, then you let your abilities take over. And we let your talent take over, and that's where we start to evaluate the players. Here, I try and keep an open slate because the guys are learning. Like, the veterans kind of know the deal, but the young guys don't. So I have this education, learning what we do, and we get to training camp, we'll start evaluating then.
One of the things that stood out to me, and I know you're out at practice, I am as well, is just the energy from the players and the coaches. What have you thought about that? Especially even in individual drills, there's still a lot of energy there. Yeah,
and it's kind of how Antonio put the coaching staff together, to have the energy in the practice field. You kind of need that. It's hard. It's hard work, right? Practice is hard, and it's supposed to be hard. But if there's energy to it, and the more you enjoy being out there, kind of raises the level. But yeah, certainly a lot of energy, a lot on defense, obviously, and we like to see that. But watching the individual position coaches work with the guys, I think that's what AP wanted, is to have that part of that practice.
I wanted to ask you about Christian Wilkins. What a big signing. Can you take us behind the scenes on your evaluation before you got here? Everybody knew he was a great player. And then to see him up close now in the silver and black, what's that process been like?
We try and be very selective in who we sign, obviously, and obviously Christian was a big signing. But he kind of checked all the boxes we're looking for in a free agent, just as far as how he played in the past, what his age was, the position he plays, which is a premier position, to find that interior defensive lineman that can only play the run but play the pass, and has the character and work ethic we're looking for. I mean, the day that we signed him, that he came in, did his media work, signed his contract, took his physical, not in that order, obviously, physical, contract, media. But then he was out here on the field getting his workout in. And actually, Gardner Minshew was doing the same thing when he came in. He was out here getting his workout in the day that they signed. That's what we want to see. I mean, they're here to play football. Work ethic is a big part of it, especially when he signed a big contract. So he's fit right in with us.
Yeah, I just love his energy. Even, watching him last year when he played for the Dolphins, I just thought he was the Raider kind of guy, perfect kind of player to match up, with Max Crosby. He reminds me a lot. I'm going to kind of give you a little history here. He reminds me a lot of Jerome Brown. I played with Jerome Brown early on out of Miami. Just so athletic, the great burst, pass rush, physical force. Talk to us a little bit about what your expectations are of him and Max together.
Yeah, that's a great comparison, by the way, Jerome Brown. Christian, he's a natural leader. Even though he's a veteran, even though he's played in the league, when you come to a new team, sometimes guys will take a step back and kind of see the lay of the land. He walked in here and he just leads naturally right away. And that's kind of rare to see.
Yeah.
But look, if we're going to build the defense, you have to start up front. Rushing coverage, that's what we need. But to have him and Max, and we've got, probably 4, 5, 6 different guys we can bring in on the defensive front to get after the quarterback. And it makes your coverage look a heck of a lot better in the back end. So, but that was the thought behind it. We can't have everybody just sliding the protection to Max all the time. We have some rushes on the other side, but we need some interior pass rush. That's the hardest to find, and that's why we spend that much money on Christian Wilkins.
AP's made it very obvious that he wants not only great players, but he wants great Raiders and guys that specifically fit with what the Raiders want to do. He said he's the gatekeeper of that locker room. How important was it to get not only Christian Wilkins a talent, but Christian Wilkins the Raider?
Yeah, I mean, fit is huge. Fit's important in the draft. It's important for agency. We want guys that fit the Raiders. All right, and there's a certain fit. Even it's so funny just talking like Max Crosby. Like, does he fit the Raiders? Like, it's Max with 2 X's. How could he not fit the Raiders? But it's the style of play. It's how much you work, in the off season. But a lot of it's just the personality. Like, we let you be you, whatever that is. Don't care. Yeah. As long as you work hard, you're accountable, and you're a great teammate. But yeah, and when AP has a vision for what he wants, and that's what. And actually, our scouts are here this week going through some meetings. it makes player acquisition that much easier when the head coach has a specific vision of what he wants, not only in the team, but each individual position, and that's what we have right now.
Tom, I'm fascinated by Brock Bowers and how it came about, your evaluation. The draft starts happening. Michael Penix goes early. The quarterbacks are going. And then all of a sudden, arguably, I don't think it's arguable, the greatest tight end in the history of college, 2 Mackey Awards, 2 national championships, is on the board. What was it like in this building as Bowers was coming towards you?
It's a scenario that we had worked through to see if that could happen. We had to have everything covered. You just never know how the draft's going to run. So that was one of the scenarios. And one of the things we looked at in the offseason was offensively, just like keep it simple. Like, we got to score. We got to score more points on offense. That could come from, offensive line, better protection, better run game. It could come from playmakers at receiver, running back, tight end, quarterback. It doesn't matter. We got to score more. So he should help us in that regard. Still a young player. I like what I've seen so far. Not trying to evaluate too much in OTAs, but you can't help but see his athletic ability, his feel in the passing game. The one thing you can't get a feel for here, just because of the nature of practice, is his run after catch ability. But he has some natural instincts to it, combined with, he's fast and strong and a great athlete. So it's been great to see. We have to get him integrated in the offense. That will start kind of in training camp, but excited to have him.
Yeah, I tell you, when we picked him up, the first thing I thought was, man, that's going to be so dynamic with those 2 guys, Michael and him, on the football field at the same time. It just would give defenses just headaches, right? You're not sure whether to go with a nickel package if you're defense, if you're going to line up with an extra Sam linebacker. That must give this offense an opportunity to really dictate when they have that opportunity.
It does, and what's nice about both Michael and Brock is they can block at the line of scrimmage, which is part of your job description. And I think with Brock, I think people forget, he'll get after it in the run game. He's going to give up a little bit of size to bigger defensive ends, which is natural. But he kind of has that plays with an edge, gets after guys, and you just got to tie him up for a little bit and finish the block and let the back decide what he wants to do. But Michael has that as well. So, yeah, depending on how teams want to play us, it's good to have different matchups with receiver and different styles of receiver, different styles of tight ends, different styles of backs to give some people some problems.
Regardless of the quarterback competition, how that shakes out, those guys have to be the best weapons for those quarterbacks. So it's got to make them even more comfortable.
Yeah, it has to. And like I said, you like to have a nice menu for Luke Getsy to go to. Different styles of players at different positions, get the offensive line solidified, and let it go from there.
Tom, last question for us. With the cap where you're at now, currently, and you got to sign players in the future, how unique is this situation right now? How do you feel about where you are financially with this roster?
Yeah, it's good to have. It's earmarked for this year. The cap space we have now, earmarked some for this year, some for next year. We want to make sure we have some long-term sustainability. I think what people forget is there's also a good portion of that you need in season just to operate. Yeah. Where there's injured reserve, practice squad, that sort of thing. We still have some eyes on some players that are out there right now that we may sign going into training camp. We'll kind of see how it works out. But as we build this, and it's not like a rebuild, but as we build this moving forward, you have to have long-term sustainability. And part of that is having that cap space this year, next year. Maybe roll some of that over to next year, maybe use some of it this year. But we have a plan for it. We'll see how it works out.
So that was the GM right there, Tom Telesco. He's not a guy that talks a lot. He's not going to, spend a lot of time speaking with the media, not a lot of time elaborating a lot of different ideas, but, he'll give us what we need when we need it, right? And so, he's a guy that's been around for a very long time. I think he put together a really good draft class. Obviously, we won't really know the results of it for a few years, but it just seems like the moves that he's making makes a lot of sense. And I know that, there's others out there from national media that doesn't think that the Raiders had a very good offseason, but I think when you go and get a guy like Christian Wilkins, when you get a guy like Gardner Minshew, you bring back a couple of the players that are key, like Adam Butler and John Jenkins, and you add a little bit of money to Mad Max Crosby's contract to make him happy, just kind of put some really good pieces. Obviously, the Raiders went and hired some really good coaches as well. I feel like they have a good formula. Obviously, it's always going to go back to the quarterback position. Aiden O'Connell, Gardner Minshew, who's going to be the lead dog. That'll work itself out in the wash sooner rather than later. But that was the conversation we had with Raiders GM Tom Telesco. Coming up in segment number 2, you'll hear from the offensive coordinator, the guy who's tasked with putting it all together, regardless who the quarterback's going to be. How do you get Devontae involved? How do you get Brock Bowers, the rookie tight end, involved? Michael Mayer, he was a rookie a season ago. Jacoby Myers, Zamir White. What does all that look to get like? Luke Getsy has a lot riding on his shoulders. You'll hear that conversation coming up in segment number 2 of today's Locked On Raiders podcast. Before we get to that, though, I do want to tell you about eBay Motors. With passion, drive, and patience, that is the formula for winning championships. That's also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors is everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. With eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guarantee Fit only available to U.S. customers. All right, Raider Nation, here we go. Segment number 2 of today's Locked On Raiders podcast. Again, day 6 of our best of series. We got one more of these, and then coming up on Monday for July 1st, that'll be a brand new show. I'll be back from vacation and be fully charged, ready to go full throttle the rest of the year. And looking forward to it. And, of course, Costa Mesa, when the Raiders report to camp, that's starting with the rookies coming up on July 21st. That's when it gets real. Right? Once you know that training camp is here, then that's when the football season is back, and that's when it gets real. That's when you kiss the wife, you tell the kids, I'll see you later. I'll see you after the Super Bowl, because that's what it is when it comes to the football season, and that's exactly why I'm on vacation right now, because once all that is said and done, the wife deserves at least a week, right? And so she's got to live her life around the football calendar, so we try to make sure that we have a little bit of downtime when it's all said and done, and it's a very small window, so we try to take advantage. With all that being said, myself, JT, Eric Allen, we all had an opportunity to catch up with offensive coordinator Luke Getsy at the Raiders Roundtable, Raiders Media Day there at the headquarters. Second year in a row I've had an opportunity to be a part of this, and let me tell you, this year was so much better than it was a year ago. Obviously, we know about the staff change, but, man, just everything that the Raiders were able to put together as they put this Raiders Media Day together and brought us all these different players and coaches and coordinators. It was just really a good time, good showing, and the Raiders, the players were very accommodating. But here's offensive coordinator Luke Getsy from Raiders Media Day.
Luke Getsy joins us, the offensive coordinator. Thanks for joining us on Media Day.
Absolutely, man. Thanks for having me, guys. How we doing?
Really good. Talking about all those guys. You know?
I was hearing about some parts and different things we could do. So.
Well, first off, we mentioned the Chicago game last year when you were at the Bears, 12 personnel, the way you were able to run the ball against the Raiders. Now you come here with all these extra weapons. What's it been like for you taking a look at all this new personnel?
No, it's been a lot of fun. I think that's, the art of what we do is you have these great players and then you let them go do their thing, right? You try to create as much space that you can for them, and the flexibility that all these guys have has been really been the most fun to work with and get to know them, really, right? See what they're capable of and try to push the limits as far as we can and get guys in a bunch of different positions and doing a bunch of different things. And I think that's going to be, our secret sauce this year, in the sense of, I think we have a lot of those types of guys that can do a lot of different things.
Yeah, I guess everybody has a tree where they came from and kind of what is their perfect offense, or what tree did you come from? What's your perfect game plan?
Sure. I've been pretty fortunate. I've been around a lot of really good coaches, and Mike McCarthy took me under his wing, probably about 11 years ago now, and so I got to learn the game from him from a whole different perspective, and someone who really has been a mentor for me throughout my career. And then having the opportunity to go back to Green Bay in 19 and work under Matt LaFleur, I really got to really dive into this style of play. And it's not too far from what I learned from Coach McCarthy. It really isn't, but it's kind of more my blend of who I am and what I like to do, and in the sense of we try to make everything look the same, and everything, whether it's a run play to another run play or a run to a pass or a pass to pass. We try to do as many things as we can that look the same to the defense and keep the defense guessing as much as possible, keep them on their heels, and then the tempo of our style of play and the way that we run off the rock is something that I really admired right away from that perspective, and hope to do the same thing here.
Coach, what has been your impression so far of OTAs? I know it's not a full training camp. You're not putting every install, but the energy from the players, the willingness to learn what you're trying to implore, and even just the rest of the coaching staff as they're putting everything together.
It's been awesome. We're a new staff, but we didn't get treated like a new staff. So we didn't get those extra couple weeks at the front end of this thing, the extra mini camp. So that was a cool, little unique challenge that we had to overcome. But a credit to all the players. the work ethic that they have, the mentality that they have, the positivity staying in, because we threw a lot of stuff at them, and the way they were able to retain everything in such a short time. I mean, really like a little over a month. And it's really impressive, especially the rookies that have come in here. These young guys have come in here, and they have just kicked butt with this thing. And so we're really excited that we're going to be able to hit training camp running, and that was really the goal.
Coach, I want to go back to Green Bay with Devontae. And what did you see the first time you started working with him? And Aaron Rodgers is one of the greatest of all time. Well, walk me through those practices and his work ethic and what he's like when he parks and comes into this building, because you got Max on the defensive side. He's the face of the offense. Tell us about your relationship with Devontae.
Yeah, I think when I got to Green Bay in 2014 with Devontae, we kind of showed up at the same time. It was a few guys. Like, I got to college, and I went to college with Larry Fitzgerald, and every practice you were like, wow, one of those things. And when I got to Green Bay with Aaron, it's every day. You're like, wow, like every day. And Tay's kind of that type of player, like it's like you're just blown away in little moments of practice. Whether it's a release, whether it's a catch, whether it's a route, whatever it is, you're blown away by it. And I think that's really cool. And like you said, I'm learning quickly that Max does that on defense every single day and pain in my butt. But, Tay is that type of player where you're going to practice every day and you're like, whoa, And so when you have those type of players on your team, you're really excited to work with them. And Tay's been doing that ever since I met him.
Yeah, he's just fantastic, just ball player. And I know you had DJ Moore last year and, guys who can route run, they can make the deep play, one-on-one stuff. Just talk just a little bit about what do you do with that superstar receiver who's on your team? Do you go into the game saying, man, I got to get him the ball like 5 or 6 times, or is it just a feel of the game?
No, you definitely have an intent, right? I think that as you go in your game plan, you're trying to find different ways to get your main guys the ball. And then, other players kind of get the benefits of it. So if Tay's sitting on the backside and they want to double or cloud or do whatever, then the guys on the front side get the benefit of less coverage. And so I think you go into those game plans and you find different ways to make sure they're touching the ball. Because usually when they're touching the ball, it's going to help everybody in the process, right? Your quarterback completion percentage is going to go up. You're going to get other guys open in different situations. So it's important that you get the ball in those guys' hands. But at the same time, I think the other guys benefit from it too, because now we just get a really good flow of run, pass, and mixing the ball all over the field. And that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to get the offense to where we have a bunch of guys doing a bunch of different things. So when hopefully when people want to play one guy, we can go another direction.
When you look at the different wide receivers, we know what Devontae and Jacoby bring to the table, but what about the other guys? What about a Trey Tucker and his speed? And then, of course, Brock Bowers. I know he's a tight end, but he's really a weapon. I mean, what do you see when you see those guys?
Yeah, I'll touch, again, Jacoby's been awesome. I didn't know him before this process, and absolute stud, complete guy, mental part of the game, physical part of the game, coach on the field. Great leadership, so he's been fabulous to work with. And then Tuck's been absolutely amazing this offseason. I think he's really coming to his own. I think the play speed is real. And then you mentioned Brock and Mike, both of those guys. They give you different dynamics at the tight end position. The physicality, the run after catch that both of them have at the tight end position is something we really hope to lean on.
Coach, the last 4 games also for Zamir White, 4.7 yards a carry. With Josh, when you look at Josh Jacobs and him being gone at the end of the year, he stepped up. He is a beast. I wanted to talk about him in that weight room. When this guy's lifting weights, you catch a little of this on social media. He looks like a linebacker. And then I can imagine for you on 3rd and 3 with Brock Bowers behind the line of scrimmage and his ability to make people miss. But then you got a big back and then the depth of the running back room, if you can touch on that.
Yeah, no, he's been great this offseason. Like you said, we had there was a play in OTA, I think it was 2nd week of OTA, and we got to see that speed that he has too. So he kind of creased it and he took it. That was pretty cool. It was pretty cool to see, just he's a different cat. Like, that is like a speed that not many guys have. And to be paired with that size that he has. But it is a complete room. I think we got a really cool room that has guys that can, catch the ball out of the backfield. We got guys that can hit the perimeter. And then we have Z that can kind of do both in the sense of hit it inside, hit it outside with really cool speed. So it's a really cool room. I'm excited to see where this thing goes. And I always say with backs, like, training camp really tells you what a back's about, right? There needs to be real contact up front. There needs to be holes. There needs to see vision. And I think Z's just going to take off for sure when we get to training camp.
That's awesome. What's your first impression of Raider Nation, the fan base,
Yeah.
what it is to be a coach here with the Raiders?
Very special. It really is. It's pinch yourself sometimes when you think about the history of this place and how cool it is. And I mean, growing up watching you play and like this place, the family atmosphere. Let me just touch that first. That's in this building and how Mr. Davis has set this thing up to where everyone's taking care of each other and it's a family environment. You feel that right away as soon as you got here. And AP's just kind of taking that to another level himself. And then you get outside the building and you see, I mean, you're in a new city that you really haven't been in very long, and the love for this Raider Nation is pretty incredible.
I want to go back to the running back room real quick and ask you about 6th-round pick Dylan Lobby and what he brings to the table, like a versatile guy from New Hampshire.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Like, I mean, this guy in college lined up as a slot receiver, as an outside receiver in the backfield. He did all those things, and really I've been most impressed with the knowledge part of it and how quickly he's able to pick up everything, and like I said, we kind of didn't hold back from these guys. We really wanted to challenge them as much as we could in this phase of it, because it's okay to fail right now, and then when you get to training camp and you start going. So we really threw a lot at these guys, and he's someone who really stepped up to the challenge and really has, you wouldn't know he just got here. I think that's a credit to him and his work ethic.
So there's the man that's tasked with putting it all together, the offensive coordinator, Luke Getsy. I think he's got a lot riding on his shoulders. I was asked the other day, is he a guy that you have a lot of confidence in? And I had to be honest and say, I just don't know. Right? I know what he did in Green Bay. I know that he was part of the staff there in Green Bay. I know Devontae has a really good relationship with him, but I also know that he was offensive coordinator in Chicago. And I know things didn't go well. And I know you could say, well, that was the quarterback. That was the organization. That was this, that, and the other. That's fine. But until you actually see it, we don't know. So I just had to say that's TBD. I can't tell you if Luke Getsy is going to be a really good offensive coordinator. There's some of these coaches that the Raiders have on the staff. The majority of the coaches I feel really good about just by, talking to them and what they bring to the table. But when I saw the offense from the Bears up close and personal, when I saw what it looked like, even though they beat the Raiders in 2023, still didn't feel confident about it. So I'm interested to see. And of course, as I mentioned many times, we'll get an up close and personal look of it during training camp. Once we get to see that, I'll be able to give you a better assessment of what I think of him as the offensive coordinator and, more importantly, the offensive play caller. But there he was from Raiders Media Day back at Raiders headquarters. Really good stuff. If you ever want to check out the whole show, it's about 4 hours long. They have the YouTube version of it. Really, really good stuff. Coming up in segment number 3, another guy we caught up with at Raiders Roundtable. That was the rookie left guard, Jackson Powers Johnson. I look at him as an immediate starter day one. Slide him in at the left guard position, slide Dylan Parham over to the right guard position. You'll hear that conversation coming up in segment number 3 of today's Locked On Raiders podcast. Here we go, Raider Nation. Segment number 3 of today's Locked On Raiders podcast. Again, day 6 of the best of series that I've got going on as I'm on vacation. Going back to Raiders Media Day, and we talked to so many different players. We talked to GM Tom Telesco. You heard from him, segment number 1. Segment number 2, you heard from the offensive coordinator, Luke Getsy. Antonio Pierce, you heard from him earlier in the week. Jackson Powers Johnson, you're about to hear from him. But we talked to Brock Bowers. We talked to Michael Mayer. We talked to Aiden O'Connell, Gardner Minshew, Trey Tucker, Devontae Adams, Max Crosby, Christian Wilkins. I mean, the list goes on and on and on of guys that we had an opportunity to catch up with. Really a fun event, but this guy, I think he's going to become a fan favorite. That's Jackson Powers Johnson. He comes from Oregon. Of course, he was a hell of a center last season, but he also could play the guard position. So the Raiders have him slotted in at the left guard spot as of right now, what we saw at rookie minicamp, what we saw at OTAs, and what we saw at mandatory minicamp. So that's what I'm assuming he's going to end up playing, but I love the fact that he's got the versatility to play the center position as well if need be. Not only can he play the center position, obviously Andre James can as well, but then you've got Dylan Parham. All three of those guys, the interior offensive linemen, can all slide into the center position if need be. But let's go back to Raiders Media Day at Intermountain Health Performance Center and hear from from the second round pick, Jackson Powers Johnson.
Jackson Powers Johnson joins us. I've been waiting for this one.
Oh, no.
I've been waiting for this guy because
what's going to happen
here's
now?
why.
Yeah, you're in trouble now, brother.
Oh, my Duck fan! I got Duck fans. You love being a Raider, man. This has not taken long from the second you were drafted. You got a microphone. You were all about the silver and black.
No, I have been, and I'm just so excited to be here. I feel humbled, and Raiders are great, and my family's all buying into it. I love it, and it's just now it's just kind of family, ready to go.
Yeah, I tell you, man, it's just a great joy. You played great college ball, played some big-time football games. Talk to us about the phone call and that process of after you were drafted by the Raiders.
Yeah, no, so the first 2 draft days, the first day kind of wasn't the greatest for sure, but the second day just kind of going into it, knowing I was going to get picked, and, not knowing what team was really going to pick me. And, I only talked to the Raiders once at the Combine, and after that I had never had another word with the Raiders. Stealth mode. Wow. They DM'd me in vanish mode. But, I was sitting there, I was kind of looking at the screen, and, the next picks were coming up, and I look at LV, and I go, Las Vegas. Man, I just this weird feeling about Las Vegas. And gets right to it, and I get a call, and my phone call, and I look at it, and everyone just goes silent. And I look, it's Las Vegas Raiders. I get on the phone, I talk to AP, I talk to everybody, and it was just a surreal moment. Like I just levitated out of my body. I levitated out of my body, and the phone call was great. They ended up posting. I think I sounded like a baby because I was just trying to keep it together.
Right.
And then after that, hang up the phone, just look at my family, and I say, Raiders. And everyone just loses it. But it's just, it's so close to home for me. I'm like 5 hours up the road on I-15. And definitely blessed to be here. And it's been great. It's been surreal. So
have you levitated out of your body since you've been here in the facility, you've been around the players, with the coaches? What has that whole experience been like so far?
I mean, it's been amazing. Just walking into the building, it's such amazing facilities, and it's kind of great because I was at Oregon, those are unbelievable facilities, and now I come here, and now more unbelievable facilities. So I'm definitely blessed. But the players and the coaches and the support staff have been great. That's like a thing you really stress about being a rookie is you don't know where you're going to go because college you get to pick where you go. Yeah. But now. Like you're being picked, and coming into this organization, everybody being so nice, so accepting, and just making the transition almost seamless. We're all blessed. We were talking all as rookies, and we feel really blessed to be here. And I've definitely levitated out of my body a little bit. I'd obviously definitely, meeting Max for the first time. That was really cool. Or
on the football field, or just
in the cafeteria.
Yeah.
And then
wait till you get to the field.
I know. I'm excited for that. And then, Devontae Adams, really cool guy. Aiden O'Connell, Gardner Minshew, just the whole O-line room too. Yeah. We just had rookie dinner, so I think they like me now.
Did you come with the
yes,
puck?
sir. I was. I footed the bill. So, but
can you tell us how much it was?
It was around a lot of money. It was around a lot of money.
Good answer. That's
a lot of money.
Answer.
Maybe like a 2002 Nissan Altima. Maybe something like
His
that. I don't
answers
know.
are unbelievable.
Oh my goodness!
I appreciate you sharing the disappointment on day one, and you come in with Brock Bowers. I thought Brock would have gone in the top 10, and all of a sudden, I say it's a gift from the football gods. We get him, and then we get you. And the fans are going nuts here because we feel like you're competing, but you're going to have a great opportunity to prove yourself as a rookie. What is that like for you coming in, knowing there's a need at your position, and you played a different position, and you're versatile to play multiple positions? That's exactly what this team needed in this draft.
I mean, going to a place that not only wants you but needs you is a dream come true. And, I'm just excited to get just earn the trust of the organization first and foremost. Like, we got, mandatory minicamp coming up. I get those opportunities, and then fall camp comes up, and I get those opportunities as well. Being able to prove myself not only to the organization, but to kind of the other teams that didn't pick me in that first round.
Yeah.
I definitely have a little chip on my shoulder, and that's kind of always how I've played, football since I was 8 years old. So nothing really new to me, but truly excited to be here and excited in the position I am. I'm lucky. I mean, I have friends all over the league who don't have this experience. That's just a tribute to the organization here. Coach AP, what his culture here is like, it is what it is on camera. Everybody loves it here. Everyone loves him. Like, truly grateful to be here.
I have one more. When did you know as a player that you had the opportunity to be here in the league?
That's a great question. I mean, it was a goal of mine since I was 8 years old, and my parents kind of held me to it. Like, everything I did since 8 years old and up was to make it to the NFL. And I think kind of when I kind of realized that I could definitely, play in the NFL, I'd have to say probably my freshman year, kind of my first or second start. And, I was holding my own and I was having fun. I was like, I could do this at the professional level. Kind of this year, the last game I ever played was in Allegiant Stadium against the Huskies.
Yes.
Unfortunately, the loss, but I had a touchdown for about 2 minutes before they took it away from me. But just kind of those moments, kind of reaffirm that I can come to the next level and I can perform and I can compete. So yeah.
The last one, embrace the black hole. These fans in the black hole, which I'm in, and we're all in, and we embrace guys like you. I think you and the black hole are going to have an unbelievable relationship.
No, I'm so excited. The best fans in the league. I like to play like a psycho on the field, and to have fans all around you that are just as psycho as you. I love it.
Fit right in.
Fit right in.
So there was a conversation right there with the second round pick, JPJ, Jackson Powers Johnson. Excited about those first two picks, right? Brock Bowers, I look at him as an immediate starter. Day one, he'll be out there on the field against the Chargers. I look at JPJ, Jackson Powers Johnson, say that guy is going to be a starter day one. Obviously, some other guys will have an opportunity to put their name in the hat and get out there and get some early playing time. But those first two picks, there's no doubt about it, those guys are starters. And if they're not, something went wrong. I mean, just straight up. Look, the rookies report to camp on July 21st, the veterans on 23rd. Sometime between, the start of training camp and the start of the season, if one of those two dudes aren't starting, something went wrong. It's just that simple because both those guys, Brock Bowers and JPJ, Jackson Powers Johnson, both should be slotted in as starters on day one versus the Chargers. But that's what I got for you for today's edition of the Locked On Raiders podcast. Coming up on Friday as we close out our best of series, we'll have some more sound from not only Raiders Media Day, but also taking it back to the alumni wellness event that they had at the M Resort. I was able to talk to a lot of different players. You'll hear that conversation or those conversations as well on Friday's edition of the Locked On Raiders podcast. So until then, take care of yourself, take care of your family, love on your family. Most importantly, as always, just win, baby.